Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective, here with my boy John Tran.
What's going on?
Hey, I just want to say first off, a couple housekeeping things. I really appreciate everyone's participation with the live stream we had on Saturday. You guys bared with me through the technical difficulties. We had over 100 people join us, just talking all things football. Many Texas fans on there, and it was great conversation. John was in the comments as well, answering questions that I couldn't get to. So we want to do that, again, and maybe have them more regularly with both of us on there. Just getting and vibing and chatting with you guys.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Also, make sure you guys are following us on all the social medias. I have the links. I post them in every video we do, but I just want to make the reminder out there. Many of you guys have been hitting us up. Hey, what's your Twitter handle, Instagram, whatnot. We actually streamed on Instagram, which was great because when the live stream went down on YouTube, many of you guys stuck with us on Instagram, and we continued the conversation there. Make sure you're following us on all social media platforms. Those links are in the comment or in the description box. As well as I will have John's article that he wrote after the Sugar Bowl. Very good read for you UT fans. Please check that out at the Fanatic Perspective website. We are going to continue to push that as we start to revamp our written content as well. So now that we got all those things out the way, I'm excited to talk some ball with you and continue the discussion. So the Senior Bowl this past weekend, I know some people were talking about the horrible Pro Bowl we had, but the Senior Bowl was what I was really excited about. And just wanted to get your thoughts. Charles Abenihu, Chris Boyd got to participate, and just overall impressions, and from there.
Charles Abenihu made himself some money. I think he's definitely a 1 to 2 round grade as of right now. If he tests well, he may solidify a first day pick. I think Chris Boyd kind of hurt himself, to tell you the truth. I think the practice wasn't good. In the game, the first 3 plays he was targeted on, I think he had 3 pass interference penalties on that. So I mean, it probably wasn't a good week for him. Hopefully he tests well so he can still get himself probably a mid-round grade, but overall,
he's got to try to figure out. He's got to try to figure out how to get back to the tape he had at the end of his junior year. The second half of his junior year, when they put the GoPro on his helmet and he really started to figure things out, he's got to get back to that football player if he wants to have a chance at the next level.
I agree.
Because, look, he's passionate, he's a hard worker, and he loves football. And they'll give him a chance. And he played for Texas. They'll give him a chance off of that. But at the next level, they cannot tolerate undisciplined football play. Undisciplined with penalties, undisciplined with your eyes, undisciplined with your technique. So he's got to get those things, and maybe it's a marriage with a good DB coach at the next level that can just tap through to him and finally unlock the physical potential that Chris Boyd had. We were excited when we got him, coming out of high school, right? When he came from Jeff Traylor's program. And so we know he's got the right stuff, but it's got to come together for him. But Charles Abenihu, like you said, I agree. I said that on the live stream. He definitely made himself some money. I have a question for you, though.
What's up?
Of all the guys we have, and because I think you actually asked during the live stream, how many UT players do we think are going to get drafted? And I think we agreed, like Abenihu, Gary Johnson, Little Jordan Humphrey. Who else am I forgetting? I'm forgetting some other people.
I think Devontae Davis.
Potentially Devontae Davis. I know I'm forgetting somebody else. But I think I said 5. I think I said
Gary
5.
Johnson.
Gary Johnson, yeah. So I think I said 5 guys that could get drafted.
Right.
But so I think that's like a given. But we have some other guys who played, who are multi-year starters. Who's the Puna Ford of our group? The guy that may not get drafted, or maybe a 7th rounder, or a throwaway guy that we don't think about, but you're like, you know what? I'm willing to put some money down that he makes a 53-man roster. Who's that guy for you?
So it's a guy that we've kind of not, I wouldn't say picked on, but we expected more from him in this channel. It was PJ Locke. I think once he gets shifted over into maybe a safety position. His natural position. He's gonna make a team. I feel like he's gonna impress coaches, and because he's a very smart player and he understands the game. And he was just out of position most of the season. And once when Brandon Jones went down, he shifted
his
over.
His play did
skyrocketed.
Yeah, starting in the Tech game, he played very well. Chris Boyd is the other guy. Chris Boyd's going to get drafted.
No, yeah.
Chris Boyd's going to get drafted. Despite all the stuff we just talked about, he's still, typically when you get a Senior Bowl invite, you carry a certain grade. He'll be drafted. The guy who I'm going to go, you mentioned earlier, I doubt Devontae Davis gets drafted.
You don't think so?
I don't think he's draftable right now. But I would not put it past him to make a 53-man roster because of his size and his physicality.
Yep.
I think people are going to be very, very shocked to see how physical, even though he's pretty lanky, to me, I still look at Devontae Davis as a guy where there's upside for him. And I think,
absolutely. I agree too.
Is he at the level of a Holton Hill? Because Holton Hill, all things considered, would have been a second or third round pick if it wasn't for the off the field stuff. And I think he's a little bit a notch below that. Just Holton Hill instinctively is a little bit better, has a little bit better ball skills, but very similar in terms of size. And Devontae Davis, the one thing he did improve was his technique. We talked about Chris Boyd. Devontae was balanced for most of the season. If you look at his tape, the plays he gave up, he was mostly in position. Guy just fought through. I think those things, that's not a huge, heavy area of weakness for me as a player. And on top of that, he tackles well, going into the physicality. So Devontae Davis would be a guy for me. Y'all let us know in the comments who's going to be an unsung guy, whether it's a Chris Nelson or Andrew Beck. I don't see that right now, but you guys, state your case. That's what we love, talking ball with you on this channel. And like we said, going back to the live stream, man, learning from each other. A lot of these videos is just healthy for us to get it out as Texas fans because so much happens even through the week. Yeah. And it's like, man, did you see this, or did you hear about this, or did you see this tweet? And being able to go through the emails with you guys and messages is a lot of fun. And the comments
catches us up too.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. I've learned since we've been doing this, me and you. I've learned so much from you. I've learned so much, just tidbits that people send in the comments. So just love keeping that up. To the point. So going in a different direction. We're talking about the closure of our seniors. How about the guys coming in? I made the Brew McCoy video, when I was excited and whatnot. I think even before it was like official, but obviously, he's on campus. Even saw the reports where he's working out, getting some late night work in with Casey Thompson, which I loved.
That's phenomenal. I love that. I absolutely love just the attitude that this team has
That's her backup quarterback working like that.
I know, yeah, exactly. And the fact that he joined the transfer portal as well, and he saw that everyone else was leaving, and he saw this as an opportunity. It's going to be Sam's job, but Sam's a physical player. He could be out. I have to be prepped if the time comes. So
Sam Ehlinger hasn't made it through a season clean since junior sophomore year of high school. Yeah. So he has to be ready. Absolutely, I agree. You also look at. So I want to get your thoughts on Brew McCoy. The people didn't get to hear from you that night, so just your overall impressions of him coming on the campus.
He's a 6'3", 210-pound guy who runs a 4.40. I mean, everyone was arguing about where should he play. Should he be outside linebacker? Should he be a wide receiver? To tell you the truth, I think that should be up to him. If he wants to,
and it sounds like he wants to play wide receiver.
Yeah, it sounds like he wants to play wide receiver. Let him focus on wide receiver. If that, let him go full speed. He's that good of an athlete. You don't want to waste reps for him changing back and forth between the offense and defensive side. So if he wants to go wide receiver, let him go focus on being a wide receiver and be the athlete that he is, that we need him to be.
Just thinking about it more in some of the I'm actually still on the Joshua Moore bandwagon for a slot receiver. I still think he might be your slot receiver starting the season.
I do too. I think him and
Jake Smith
and Whittington are probably interchangeable at this point.
I do believe, though, with that being said, they really stumbled onto something with the big slot. That sounds weird, but with the bigger slot receiver and dominating over the middle of the field and whatnot. See, now I got him messed up. But that is a real thing, and with the comfort of your quarterback being able to stick with that, right? I think that could be a place where Brew McCoy could potentially fill in. Because look at the wide receiver room. Woodard's coming back, Brennan Eagles, Malcolm X was playing X last year. Like, John Burt's still there. You got Colin Johnson, Devin Duvernay, where technically you're starting outside receivers. So there's a lot in there. And then on top of that, Marcus Washington and Kennedy Lewis coming in, right? So it's a loaded room. I think what you're going to look for with whoever's going to play, who can be cross-trained. Can they play multiple positions? That's why I positioned, because of our depth, we can experiment with Jordan Whittington at running back, I feel like. He's already a natural there from his high school days, just with the direct snap stuff and really running behind his pads and behind the offensive line. And somebody brought up the comparison of him even potentially being more of like an Alvin Kamara for us. I think that's a luxury you can have when you have other good personnel. So why not? Yeah, he can be cross-trained at wide receiver. Same thing with Jake Smith. Jake Smith took snaps. I think he had like almost 100 carries in high school. Wow. But when you're recruiting almost positionless players, I think it's a good thing. And Brew McCoy falls right into that. I think now the thing that LJ had almost a quarterback level of awareness and playing slot, because it's a lot of two-way decision routes. It's a lot of, let me break this off at 8 on the fly, reading the defense. LJ was really good at that and was really good at syncing up with Sam. I think that's also something that they look for in their slot receivers going back to when he was at Iowa State, right? So just something to look for there. Now, other news, Tyler Owens out of Plano East, who's, one of the less ballyhooed recruits that we had, in some recruiting services, rose up to a 5-star. I think it was 24/7, I'm not 100% sure, but either 24/7 or Rivals where he went up to a 5-star. I know you had some thoughts on that. You actually reviewed, were really looking over his film and somebody you were studying.
So he was definitely some guy that after that was announced, I wanted to research him as much as possible. And the thing that's shocking to me is that it's composite 5-star, which means they take the average rating of all the other recruiting sites and what their ratings are. So that's what really blew my mind a little bit, because when I watched the video, he's a defensive back, yet none of his highlights were him in coverage. It was him making a play at the line of scrimmage or chasing down a defender. He's definitely got college speed. He definitely has college speed, and he's a sure-handed tackler from that video. But it wasn't refreshing to me, and it didn't seem like it was deserved.
To jump up 300 spots.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going into a league that you're going to have to guard a lot of receivers, very good receivers, and you have no film on you guarding anyone. It seemed a little fishy to me. And I take it for what it's worth. 24/7.
You're being objective.
Yeah. Take it for what it's worth. 24/7 is definitely, they have a huge Texas following. And I know it might be something for monetary reasons to get clickbait or whatnot. I don't know, but it's fishy to me.
So we've been people, not we, because we don't do the rankings, but people have made accusations in the past of once a player signs with Texas, they have the potential of their ranking going up, whatnot. We haven't really seen that recently that I can think of, but in the past, going back to the Mac Brown days, right?
Yeah.
Where, a guy signed with Texas that was a 3-star, all of a sudden he's either a high-end 4-star or goes up to 5-star. So they do know who their subscriber bases are, Texas being a massive one and one they want to key in on and have that interaction with. And you see how riled up people got, especially with the addition of Brew McCoy, Tyler Owens going to his 5th star. All of a sudden, we're finishing 3rd, right, in the recruiting rankings. Pisses off a lot of Oklahoma people, a lot of Texas A&M fans, and you have these people coming in and some of them make somewhat valid points, and some of them is just like, stop crying, and we always got to kick down little brother, right? So I see some, where 24/7 and some of these other recruiting sites can kind of push buttons there, right? With that being said, me personally, I don't care as much about the stars.
No,
in the rankings.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't mean
anything.
diddly squat until you get on the field. Because all it means for Tyler Owens, I'm not looking at him any differently now other than expectations. His expectations have changed. And that's on that player. And look, every high school player wants that level, because it's something you do carry as
That's
a
the
badge.
funny thing is that like a 5-star, I think the max they can offer out is, what it was, 30 or 35?
I think it's maybe 35 kids.
35 kids.
Potentially.
So
and they never get all the way up to 35.
You're telling me the number 35 player is so much better than the 40th ranked player? I mean, it's all subjective off of what someone sees on film and what they see in person.
And camps too. So we were talking about the regional coverage. They have teams, they have groups. The state of Texas, they're going to satellite camps, they're going to 7-on-7s, they're going to the opening, they're going to the, all the Nike stuff, right? And all the Under Armour stuff. It's a whole, you see the politics behind who goes to the All-American game versus the Under Armour All-American game, and then you have some of these rankings where you see one guy, even Tyler Johnson, our offensive lineman, you go to different websites, he's all over the place in the top. Now he's in the top 100 consensus, but he's all over the place.
Yeah.
So, it could be this guy that made the evaluation that decided on that day that's when they saw him matching up against whatever defensive lineman, and they evaluated him. So it can't, because to me, if we just went on straight high school tape, not everybody's tape is even. Some people play high level 6A. A lot of our players, for example, are coming out of state. I don't know, what district Braden Liebrook or Jake Smith played in Arizona and how that's comparable to Texas. I don't. So, they have to make these. And look, ESPN and a lot of these people have been pretty sharp. They had Trevor Lawrence up there, and we're learning more and more about them because the 7-on-7 atmosphere over the summer is fierce. And you are seeing them make accurate evaluations and whatnot. But every now and again, something suspicious like this happens, and we just wanted to address it. I think we're sensible Texas fans, which is why you guys, subscribe to this channel and watch us. But, we call it like we see it. Next up on the agenda, and I think it's the last thing on it, says, Tyler Owens out of Plano East.
Okay.
We've been having a lot of conversation on this channel in the live stream. My buddy William been emailing us about where are the DFW recruits, where are the guys, how are we doing in that area? Obviously when we get a guy like this out of Plano East that's signed, a part of the class, I think a lot of the top conversation is the 2020 class. And just your thoughts right now, because we see Tom Herman, doing the rodeo tour up there. Saw him at South Lake Carroll. Just your thoughts on him in DFW.
So he's obviously, he knows that there's talent out there because he's out there personally. I think he's been there all week. I think he's been there for
almost
4
all
days.
week. Yeah.
And so he knows he's got to recruit that hard. And I know the biggest thing is Mac was so good at shutting down the borders to Texas. All the best talent came to Texas. Well, I think Tom Herman thinks outside the box a little bit, and he thinks to himself, there's talent everywhere, and so he wants the best players in the nation to come here, not just Texas, but he understands that there's a ton of talent, and that's a talent-rich area. So I think you're going to see him starting to focus more towards that area.
So to your point about Tom Herman thinking outside the box, I think that's where it helps to have a guy that's coached at so many different places. He's coached in Texas. He's coached
Cali.
Outside of Texas.
He's coached in Cali. He's coached in Iowa. All over.
So let's focus on Iowa State. Because Houston, I don't really count Houston because he was in.
No, yeah.
He could get what he needed from East Texas. But Iowa State and Ohio State. Ohio State recruits everywhere. They are a national program.
Right.
That year that they took Akuda and Baron Browning and all those guys, and ran through Texas. Dobbins, and ran through Texas. Ohio State, where there's players, that's where they go. Mm-hmm. Tom Herman came from that brain trust.
Yeah, and
Iowa State, same thing. When you coach at Iowa State, you really got to hit on your evaluations. And that's something they focus in on, which, to my point that I continue to make on this channel, that's why Texas doesn't offer people as much as all these other schools. That's why they're in the bottom 5% of who they offer. They're very, very picky, and they're being very, very selective. And I know that has pissed off a lot of people in DFW. I could see the backhanded compliments on Twitter when he was taking a picture with the Lancaster coach and the South Lake Carroll coach. They're like, oh, so it looks like Tom Herman does know where DFW is on the map and all this type of stuff. It's going to take time to build those relationships. It's going to take time for them to do their evaluations appropriately.
I agree.
But if you look at the Jackson kid on Duncanville, and Duncanville, look, they're the hot team right now. I know they lost, one of the greatest games we've ever seen played in the high school football level to North Shore on the Hail Mary. But that Duncanville team was young, and they're loaded. And their quarterback, my man Jackson, that's a guy who's a 100% Texas lean. A lot of people comparing him to, he could be Cam Newton, he could be Julio Jones. We don't know what he could be. But I also know he's a ringleader up there, in the area in terms of, guys following him. That team, there's like 5 or 6 kids who are high-level recruits that Ohio State's swimming there for. Oklahoma, I think one of them is committed to Oklahoma. Like, their team is loaded, and all those dudes are coming back next year. He's working on it, guys, and we're trying to get our share of it. If you see, we are visiting right there with OU and OSU and all those schools, TCU as well. So it's a work in progress. It's not going to be a transformation over 1 year. But let me tell you this: if they get one of those kids and they develop those guys, and they get good at telling the stories of the guys who have come from that area. Tell the story of a little Jordan Humphrey who came from that area, right? Or Anthony Wheeler who came from Skyline. There are good guys that became captains on your team. And I know that those guys were brought here by the previous regime, but like you said, the continued focus on making it a priority in the area will go a long ways, but it's going to take time, guys. It's not going to be overnight. But the thing we can't do is crack jokes and be idiots every time, he does go up. I hate when people do that. When it's like the guy trying to lose weight and he goes to the gym and then you rag on him for being in the gym. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to improve, okay? Yeah. So chill.
You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
I mean,
he's got to,
And he's doing the right steps. I mean, he set goals that for this year was to win the first game. Did not accomplish that goal, but he wanted to play in the Big 12 championship. Accomplish that goal. Wanted to win a bowl game. Accomplish that goal. So I mean, he's laying the groundwork that, hey, look, we've got the timeline that we want, and we're ready to win now. We want you to be a part of it. We could start selling that. We can start selling that culture, and you have to start somewhere. And he's out there doing it, and that's the refreshing thing, is that he's out there doing it personally.
Yeah, he's out there personally. I agree. 100% agree. I want to talk, last topic of conversation for today's episode. Last week there was a story that came out, Texas A&M, both school presidents have an opportunity to meet and potentially discuss getting the band back together, getting the rivalry back together. Want to get your thoughts on that. Obviously, Greg Fenves meeting with Michael Young and them having their conversation. How far out realistically, I know they could potentially play in a bowl game, but realistically, do you see this in the next 5 years, next 10 years? How realistic is it?
I don't think the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, but it's very realistic. It all comes down to the almighty dollar. When it's both financially responsible for them both to do it, they'll do it. Because they're both big business. It doesn't matter, and if they know they can make tons of money doing it, they would cancel certain games, and then they would have that.
Yes, they would. They would pay out people to get. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. This comes down to money. It's always been about money. It was about money when they went to the SEC. it's going to continue to be about money.
Yeah, always.
And look, both programs.
I won it for the record. I
Me
was
too.
so upset
Me
when
too. And I was talking to Neil, one of our subscribers. Shout out to Neil who had emailed me about this, and he brought forth the point that there are some UT fans who don't really have any interest in playing A&M. Like some people were satisfied with the last game we played in 2011, 27-25. If you ever want to holler at Aggie. But the last game we played and we're done with them. We're moving on. But me personally, like, it's good for Texas as a whole, as the state of Texas. The amount of trash talking. This rivalry now is really just between the fan bases.
It'll help both sides too. So
It would help both sides immensely.
When A&M went to SEC, what it did
Immensely.
was open the doors to LSU and Alabama to help cherry pick some of the best players. And if we're facing them every single year, that's a little bit more of a selling point for A&M to say, hey, look, we get to play Alabama and we get to play Texas.
You get to play in, we could even bill it the state championship, however you want to do it, for marketing purposes. Look, somebody needs to come into the room. Maybe this is Scott Woodward. Maybe this is Chris Del Conte, the two ADs at these two programs. They have to come. They have to crunch the numbers, do the math. How much money are we losing every year not playing A&M? Or how much money is A&M losing every year not playing the Texas Longhorns? I've always proposed, since they're not in the conference anymore, and I'm not interested in playing a non-conference opponent late in the season. Me personally, I think once you get into your conference schedule, I think that's where you should stay, and that's what bothers me about SEC schools. But I would be open to opening with them every year. If we did a home and home every year, and we opened, and you market it or bill it however you want, the amount of money that these guys are leaving on the table by having this feud is unbelievable.
And what's so good about that too, that thought, because I agree with that, is that you'll get the best of both of the opponents because
it's not talking about
marked on the calendar. And then not only that, if you lose the game, you still have the whole season to still work your way to the playoffs. So
Florida State and Miami did that for a while, where they opened with each other when I was in my teens. I like seeing programs do stuff like, and I've always been a fan of, even before this.
But that was when Miami was Big East, right?
Yes, when they were in the Big East, correct. And so I think somebody has to show them the amount of money they're leaving on the table. And to some degree, the presidents are aware, which is why they're meeting.
They're smart.
And Greg Fenves hasn't been here very long. Chris Del Conte obviously has only been here a couple years. How can they make their stamp? Because this is also a legacy thing, right? Are you going to be the AD that not only renewed the rivalry, but enhanced it, right? I don't think either school needs one or the other.
Not at all.
But because you look at the Forbes, they're both in the top 3 programs, right?
Yep.
In terms of money and whatnot. That's not up for debate. But when we look at the Texas A&M program and whatnot, we've played, 118 times?
Roughly.
They've only won 37 games. I mean, you guys do the math there. But overall,
so what is ours? 76?
76.
76?
76.
And then 3
37 and 5 or something like that.
5
So
whatever.
you do the math. But, just trolling Aggies. Yeah. It's always fun. Kicking up a little brother. But I think they got to get back together and do it again. I would love to see it. Yeah. I'm with you, though. Unless a bowl game happens, I don't think we're going to see this for another I think it's going to be somewhere in between 5 and 10 years for them to figure it out. But I think it will get figured out.
It also attributes to us already having our non-conference games, unless
but like you said, they can pay.
Yeah, unless we're willing on dropping one of the lesser competitions and having a really, really tough schedule one year.
Sure. Well, A&M drop Abilene Christian off your schedule.
No, I'm talking about us too. At the same time, say next year,
they want to talk about we playing Colorado State and Abilene Christian. Let's play, I'm not. Just buy them out, write them a check. Anyway, we just wanted to chime in on that. We got hit up with that heavy during the live stream. Yeah. I'll make sure next time we do live streams, I'll announce it. Well, schedule it like other YouTubers are doing. I'm still learning the game. I'm working with a new camera today. I'm going to be getting another camera. So those donations and whatnot, we are going to be starting a Patreon account. Really, really appreciate it. We're trying to reinvest in this channel. Just make it, home for you guys in a lot of ways. So you guys also keep the suggestions and feedback coming our way. Don't forget to check out the links in the description box. Any thing else you wanted to dig in on? What was I doing close?
I think this weekend's a pretty good, pretty big recruiting weekend for us. We have, I think, the number 1 JUCO guy coming in to visit, and I think Javon
Gary
Shepard
Johnson's
is coming in too.
roommate, I believe. Yeah.
And then Javon Shepard's coming in, so maybe we can lock down those two and round out this class, which would make it a pretty awesome, pretty strong class, back to back.
Well, it's cold here, and I'm getting ready to bundle up and make my way. I appreciate you, as always.
You,
always
man.
A good chat.
Always.
All right. Horns always up, guys.